It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Welcome to another episode of Wednesday Toast, a podcast about comic book stuff where we talk about all kinds of comic book related stuff. My name is Lex and I'm here with my co-host Simon. Simon, what's up, man?
Hey, what is happening?
This week on the podcast, we are going to do a movie review. I feel like we haven't done one of these in a long time. We did just do Simon Watches stuff, so I guess not too long.
Is that a review? I guess it's just like catching up on the fact that I do engage in pop culture from time to time.
A recap. Yeah. Binge watching. That's the way to do it, man. The binge model. Are you the person, before we get into it, are you a person that likes to binge watch shows, or do you like the slow drip every week release?
Neither. The slow drip.
Yeah. I hate shows.
Yeah. The slow drip, I'll forget to watch it. Or it's like Nicole and I will talk about watching it and then we don't, for whatever reason. We get distracted. We're doing shit. And then if I can't binge because I'm like, there are other things that I want to accomplish today. So.
Yeah. So with things that drop all at once, I end up like parsing it out anyways. Like I think a normal human being would. Yeah. There was one Fallout, the series. I watched that we knocked that out pretty quickly. I think in a weekend.
Yeah,
it was good.
I think I knocked that one out in a couple of days.
Yeah, I think we did that like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Knocked it out because I was really into it. But yeah, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. A movie that people have been waiting on for a very long time.
For some reason.
Simon and I both saw it over the weekend or during the week. And we're going to spoil the crap out of it. So if you haven't seen it, watch it. With the movies like this, with a bunch of cameos and spoilery moments, fan servicey moments, if you care about spoilers, you have to see it the first weekend. I know that it sucks for people to be like on the internet spoiling everything, but that's just the internet.
Yeah.
There's no amount of like griping or being upset about it that's going to change that. So just go see the fucking movie, man.
I will say that watching the movie, there was no moment where I was like, damn, I'm glad that wasn't spoiled for me. It was more like, okay.
Yeah. There were a few things where I was surprised that it wasn't spoiled for me, because usually things get pretty spoiled. Mm-hmm. Even early on in the shooting, there are things that happen in this movie that were rumored.
Yeah.
And that ended up being for real. But it didn't really take, like you said, it didn't really take away anything. Some of that stuff I forgot about, which was good. I'm really glad I forgot about it because the payoff was better.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's it, guys. See you next time.
I don't know. I didn't feel that way, but yeah, we'll go on and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. There was only maybe I think one that I was like, oh wow, and it kind of made me smile. But we'll talk about it. This movie. Were you excited about this movie? I know you kind of have a sort of love-hate with Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool franchise.
I was mainly because I like Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. Mm-hmm. And I think the other Deadpool movies, I watched them recently and I'm like, these are funny. Like, these are still funny to me. They're still pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think a lot of it, like that Fox timeline, like all that stuff is they, as good as those movies are, they try to blend with each other, but it doesn't really make any sense. And to me, that takes away from the whole thing, like trying to figure out, where does this belong in this thing?
I absolutely hate the X-Men movies. Absolutely.
Do you?
If you listen to this show or old show, you've probably heard me say it. I despise them, and I don't care. When people say, oh man, you really don't like the first one? No, I don't like it.
I don't like the second one.
I do like, I only like the third one, X3.
You're like, this is what I've been seeing the whole time. Y'all are just realizing how bad they are.
Yeah, exactly. And then they get progressively worse. And I'm a person, and I've seen all of them in theaters. It's sort of just like cycle of abuse, I guess. Because I'm like, one of these has got to be good,
Yeah.
man. You and I saw X-Men Origins Wolverine, which that has to be the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never left a movie like physically angry.
Yeah, I was mad.
I could punch something.
Yeah, and I remember we went with a bunch of people that weren't like comic book, and you don't have to be a comic book person to enjoy those movies, whatever. But it was like, this is like a slap in the face.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
Yeah, I've never felt that. So you get online and you hear the people that talk about the woke hive mind and how things are ruined, and Disney is, Disney Star Wars sucks, the MCU is in shambles. You get all that. I've never really been one of those people. I've always been sort of like, everything is consistently all right. Everything's about this. It's okay.
Yeah, it's about as spicy as vanilla
Scorsese
yogurt.
might have,
it's just
right. Scorsese might have been right, and that's really my review at the end of this movie. That's what I first thought when I got into my car, is that. Well, I guess I'll just get that out of the way. I think that if he would have said what he said in a better way without sounding so high and mighty, like on his high horse, I think it would have been more well received. But yeah, this movie was definitely like an amusement park.
Yeah, definitely, 100% agree.
Which I know that's what you're getting with these, but
I think yes and no.
Definitely.
I mean, still,
yeah.
To me, Infinity War is the best of all of them. That one and not Civil War, Winter Soldier. Like those two, to me, great premises, really good movies on their own.
Yeah.
And especially Infinity War, because it's like the hero is fucking lost, like that.
Yeah.
And they dusted some characters that just came in. You're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, that was wild.
So,
especially ending the movie with Peter Parker dying, that's wild.
Yeah. And so with those, I think that there is some like heavy story elements. But yeah, I mean, as far as this one, as far as like even Endgame was a little bit like that, but Endgame was still pretty good.
Endgame was more of a focused fan service. This was just straight up.
This is like the last Spider-Man movie to me.
Yeah,
just fucking fan service.
Exactly like that. Or Multiverse of Madness, same thing. They were just trying to get people in the door with, surprise cameos and things like that. Now, I'm not saying it sounds like I'm being kind of harsh on the movie. I did enjoy it. I will say that. But just recapping it, the story, it starts out with him on the sacred timeline. I guess that's what they're called in the main timeline.
Yeah, 616. Yeah.
616. He is applying to be in the Avengers. Deadpool is. And Happy Hogan's there is basically telling him, no, you can't do it. And then he goes back home and he's depressed, right? TVA shows up, tells him his timeline is getting dusted because Logan's gone.
Yeah.
So I think that whatever, that's fine. That makes sense. I guess it was a very good ending. I did like how they explain how they talk about that movie. They talk about it through the same lens as like the fans talk about it.
Yeah.
Like how good Logan was.
Well, the whole way that they treated a lot of things, like when he sees Happy Hogan and the fourth wall breaks of like, Tony Stark's not going to come down here. Oh, he doesn't do cameos anymore. Like that kind of shit was good. Some of the stuff in the background was funny. Even the little kid Iron Man mask.
Yeah. Yeah. And that first Captain America shield that he passed in the first movie.
Yeah.
Second movie.
But I mean, I think if you haven't seen the second one in a while, you're like, how the hell did he get there? And his little slider device, I don't know how he's going to different universes.
He said he destroyed it, so I don't know how he got there.
So that was a deal with me. I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever, plot convenience,
Yeah.
Who cares?
Right. And so basically the premise of the movie is he goes to find a Wolverine to replace him. It doesn't work. and they go on an adventure and try to save his timeline together. This Wolverine in the movie is not like Logan at all. He is the worst Wolverine, which probably might be my favorite Wolverine, because I think like shitty Wolverine is better than superheroic Superman Wolverine. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
he's always been like that. This one was just a drunk. that was the main difference. Is like he even made a joke. Is like I couldn't let him think that I wanted to be there. You know. I'm like, that's every Wolverine ever. I kind of wish in this film, and I'm not trying to spoil anything here. I'm just saying that I wish that this was the version of Wolverine, and maybe that was Old Man Logan, where he gets tricked into killing the rest of the X-Men. I think that would have been a cool version. Maybe too much depressing, but just to be like, yeah, Storm.
I thought that's what they were hinting at.
Same here. But just to be like, oh, I went out to the bar and I came back and Storm was dead. An Omega level mutant was dead because some human people burned down the house or something.
Yeah. All of them. Phoenix, Jean Grey, all of them died because the humans decided to attack. That was kind of a gloss over. And this movie, they go through the adventure of trying to save Deadpool's world. They end up in the Void, which is one of the only real ties to the MCU because they have Elias. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the whole premise of the movie. They're trying to save Deadpool's world, universe. It's pretty simple. Yeah.
Well, and the whole thing with Deadpool basically retired. So not just because I guess it was because he was rejected by the Avengers. That again is like how long between that and like he's a car salesman. Like how long in between those things?
Yeah. What's your impression of the movie? That was just a very gloss over. Simon and I will break down every detail of the movie sometimes, and we'll talk about it. We'll spoil it enough in this episode. So
yeah, I mean,
so we'll just give that brief.
Again, like we were just mentioning, the story itself is pretty bare bones and kind of weak. So there's not a lot of story spoilers at all. The spoilers are like fancy cameo shit, you know. So as far as the breakdown, it was serviceable, I guess. I mean, as far as like the movie itself. Is that what you asked me? Like what I thought about that?
Yeah, your overall impression of the movie.
Yeah, it was. I mean, every Deadpool movie is just A to B of Ryan Reynolds cracking a bunch of jokes and then killing whatever that he needs to kill. If you look at this,
him trying to save a loved one, essentially.
Yeah.
Then this one, he's trying to save all of his loved ones.
The second one is like this kid that's just like that was kind of ham-fisted with the kid and killing Cable's, you know. So this one felt very much the same. It's like, who's this? And then to have like a villain that's like it's not even the same villain. It's like halfway through, and you know that was a very Fox move of a villain, like to have just this thing that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the point.
And again, maybe it is, and that's what I was just thinking. Maybe that's what they were trying to be intentional with that, because this was essentially just a send off to the Fox universe. I did love every FU to the Fox franchises. I loved that. That was stupid and silly and maybe overdone, but I thought it was great. Especially that first one where he grabs the camera and headbutts the screen.
Yeah, that was good.
I was like, yeah, that's fucking great.
That was one of the best like fourth wall breaks I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was so good. Unexpected. Because a lot of Ryan Reynolds stuff, you could expect it. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like Mad Libs with him. It's you could just insert inappropriate innuendo and it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't put that assaulter in this one. Whatever, that comedian that got canceled. He was it?
Ooh.
What's his name? He played the bartender in the first two movies.
Oh, TJ Miller?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they hate each other now.
Well, I can't imagine why.
All right. I did enjoy this movie, but like I said, Eliath and the TVA were really the only Happy Hogan. They were really for this to be Deadpool's big MCU movie, big Disney first Disney movie. Those were really the only ties. And I'm not someone that needs. I've seen some people leave reviews that are like, I was expecting them to set up all these future movies. I kind of am glad that they didn't do that. I don't. The same thing I was talking about earlier. I don't need the movie just to be a big setup for something else.
Right.
I'm perfectly fine with it just being a Deadpool movie. Even though it wasn't technically.
Yeah, I prefer it. I prefer all of these movies. I
Yeah.
prefer just to be standalones.
Yeah, early on, the people talk about the good old days of the MCU. They did these like slight nods, these slight teases, these possible slight connections. It wasn't like the whole movie was part of another giant movie.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Let's get back to that.
Yeah, definitely. And well, I mean, it just shows. I mean, with the existence of the multiverse and like the ending, the way the Loki ended and all that, and the fact that like they're not going to use Kang anymore and all these things, I can't imagine how they're going to try to put that back in there. I think that's probably just abandoned.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with that. It's so weird.
But, the Fox universe isn't gone. So, or at least Deadpool's.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I was wondering. It was like, why didn't they just take that as an opportunity to merge it with the sacred timeline? I guess because they want to leave the door open for their Wolverine.
I don't know.
Because clearly Hugh Jackman's coming back. I mean,
until he's 90.
At least in some capacity, whether it be Secret Wars or the next, big Avengers crossover movie. Clearly he is. They paid him an assload of money, probably.
I'm sure. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? Oh my gosh! And what do you think about the Deadpool? In my opinion, is interesting because they try to make him do this hero's journey arc where he's, I don't know,
every movie
he's silly and he's silly. He's morally flexible, but then he also just tries to have this heart where he's got to save and be the hero. And I just didn't know it was kind of heavy-handed in this one. I don't know. Maybe that was just me. I don't know. I just wanted them to.
He does always have a serious moments. I mean, I wouldn't say it's heavier in this one. I think it just seems that way because of how many jokey elements there are. I don't really know.
Yeah, it's such a stark contrast between his serious moments where he's like sad and depressed, and then his just off the wall. What you would assume Deadpool is like. Mm-hmm. I think it's just a weird dynamic between that being the same character. We talked about Wolverine already. This Wolverine is just the worst version of Wolverine because he drinks more, and his healing factor doesn't prevent him from getting drunk like
that's
that.
Always been there.
I guess that's his thing. One thing I did love about this movie, though, when it was in talking about Wolverine, is all of the Wolverine variants that they kind of like shoved into this quick montage.
Yeah, dude. It was great.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. We got, I think they did the regular Wolverine from the X-Men franchise. Or at least they reference him. He was a skeleton at the beginning. Logan was. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that was the fact that they went that far.
I thought it was so good. And they are totally aware of the internet's opinion of things and like, what people say about these movies, and they're going to ruin Logan's send off or whatever, and they're like, we would never do that, and just how out of touch Deadpool is, or just like he doesn't understand the context of the movie, and so he's digging up Wolverine's body. He's like, hey, Wolverine has healing factor. He's not dead. He's here, and then he digs up his body and sitting next to him with that skeleton. I was just like, this is. This is so good. And then he uses him as a weapon.
Yeah, there were some definitely J moments in there with like using the head as a club The spinal cord.
Yeah, gosh, it was so cool. And then he rigged the claw.
Yeah, ridiculous.
I thought it was great, man. I thought it was so good. Definitely a good way to start the movie. And so we technically got the X-Men hero Wolverine, the greatest hero of all time universe. Then we got Age of Apocalypse Wolverine, which I thought was so random. It looked so ridiculous.
That was one of my favorites of that. Yeah.
his hair, because you've seen that, you know, the old Wolverine, how he has that just giant lion's mane.
Yeah.
They did it. It was perfect. He was as aggressive as he is in the 90s. It was perfect. Then they did comic accurate height Wolverine because that's what people always say they want.
Yeah.
And then you realize that Wolverine's like 4 feet tall.
Yeah, it's so good. So good.
Because I wasn't sure which Wolverine that was going to be until he dropped down. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so stupid. But it's kind of like the Martha moment. It's so stupid, but I didn't expect it. So it got me. And we got Patch. That one was, I think that was more of a, for the trailers. Like they had him in the trailer, he showed him from the back, and people were like, is this going to be the MCU's version of Wolverine? Is this going to be Harry Potter? Everyone thought that Daniel Radcliffe was going to play Wolverine.
Yeah.
And so I think that was more of a for the trailer, but it was cool to see Patch. Fucking the most random one was Henry Cavill's Wolverine, dude. I never would have expected him to be in that movie.
Yeah.
It was so random. And I know that's another internet thing. People say that Henry Cavill would be a great Wolverine.
It was fine. I mean, he's huge.
It was fucking random. He's huge. I think them doing the Wolverine hair is always kind of like weird, right? People say that Henry Cavill would make a good Wolverine because the way he looked in Man of Steel, where he was like kind of rugged looking. They don't ever think they're gonna do the curled up Wolverine hair.
Yeah, that and
I think it's stupid every time they try to do that Wolverine hair.
That and the chop. I've always hated that. I don't like that. That comes all the way down.
Yeah, I did like the way they kind of did it in Logan, where the kids like shaved him and he just looked stupid. Then we got Old Man Logan. That was a cool one.
Yeah, that one was good.
That was cool. I was like, damn, why don't you guys just do Old Man Logan in Logan instead of kind of like doing he's old Logan, not Old Man Logan.
The brown suit and Hulk, that was good.
Yeah, we got John Byrne's yellow and brown Wolverine suit, which I didn't expect them to put Hulk in it, even though I know he wasn't like in it. I did not expect it. That was cool. What else did we got? We got the Fever Dream. It's a classic cover. Silvestri's Uncanny X-Men 251, where Wolverine's kind of crucified on the X.
Yeah.
That looks crazy.
Yeah, that was nuts.
That looked crazy. And it was hilarious because he was like, yeah, it's walking on skulls and everything. It's like, yeah, we're going to go with someone else. I think that was all the Wolverines.
It was neat to see those very comic accurate moments.
Yeah. That was cool. I did want to see a little bit more of that Wolverine versus Hulk, though. That was cool, man.
Yeah.
What a Ryan Reynolds thing to do. Thing to do is like, oh, if they're gonna ever do a Wolverine Hulk movie, we're gonna do it first. Very tiny in this movie. And this is where I started to realize, this is very early on in the movie. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be all fan service. Because that's all that was. That's a montage of quick fan service hits.
I think that also proves, though, and they talk about this a lot in the rest of the movie, but it proves that all that, even now, that they do in the MCU, when they're like, oh, we got to make this suit look a certain way to fit into the real world. You look right here, this guy's wearing this singlet.
Yeah.
Even Wolverine's suit later in the movie was too MCU-y.
Yeah. Big time.
It was still close. It was close enough, but it was too much.
It was significantly better than the black leather.
Yeah, 100%.
Motorcycle suit. But his brown and yellow suit looked great.
Yeah, I thought so too. It could have been fine.
Should have just kept it like that, kept it simple. Shit.
Big belt buckle.
So yeah, the rest of the movie is fan service. Lots of fan service moments. Do you have any favorites? throughout the movie?
Yeah, I mean, there were some that were a little too gratuitous to me. Some of the extraneous characters that we got that are like part of the resistant moment, especially one that was just ridiculous and making fun of like for that character. It's like, okay, I never thought that was going to work anyway, but I can see that he's also hamming it up.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about it. So the resistance characters I was talking about a little late, about midway point in the movie. Again, we've been spoiling things.
This is like
heavy spoilers. Heavy spoilers, because this is also going back to what I was talking about earlier, a moment that I was glad that didn't get spoiled for me. We get Logan and Wolverine fight, knock each other out, but then they get rescued. We saw in the trailer that Daphne Keene, X-23, is in the movie, which is fine. It would have been more impactful if she just showed up in the movie, other than the trailer, but it was fine. For that, though, we get Elektra from the Elektra movie and Daredevil, which is another one that's fine.
Yeah, how did she even survive?
Fine. We get a great moment with her though, because Deadpool is like, "I'm so sorry about Daredevil," and she's like, "Man," because her husband is Ben Affleck. She's like, "I can give a fuck less about him." So great.
She's still fine.
Then we get. Damn.
She is so fine.
Yeah, she's still so hot. She was so hot, and the Elektra movie is so bad, but she was so hot in that movie, and she looks pretty much exactly the same as she did in that movie.
She's so pretty that it even feels weird calling her hot, because she like. Yeah, she's just gorgeous.
Yeah, she's hot, and then we get Gambit, which this is what Simon was talking about. Hamming up. I think that's what you're talking about. I absolutely loved it, man. I really did. And I'm with you. I never thought... I like Channing Tatum. And after seeing him in The Hateful Eight, I was like, okay, maybe he could do Gambit. Just because
he can act,
Yeah, he did sort of an accent in that. And I was like, maybe he could do it. He's got like a thumb head, though, that really was bulbous in the head sock. But... yeah,
it's overdone, for sure.
I absolutely, probably one of my favorite parts of the movie was Channing Tatum's Gambit, because it was so much. His Cajun accent was fucking ridiculous. Yeah. And every time Devil was like, "I don't know what you're saying." And then I think that it would get progressively worse.
Yeah, for sure.
As he would go on. And it just is funny because the people in like Louisiana really do talk like that. And sometimes my grandfather was from Louisiana, and anytime no one could ever understand what he was saying because they talked like that, like nonsense.
Homo, what you making?
And so
you like to see
yeah. I loved it so much. And I really loved how they were doing their sort of rallying the troops moment. And they were like, we get our final send off. We get our, it means something that we existed. And he's like, or that we could have existed. And everything that he said was like, we save people. And he's like, or people that we could have saved. And then he was like, where are you from? I don't know. Maybe I was born.
Yeah, maybe I was born here.
Oh, that was so good, man. I don't think my wife was like, what? I don't get it. And I was like,
that's one of those.
It's not even worth explaining.
Yeah. I think Nicole, she didn't ask me about that one, but she asked me about something else. I'm like, it's like, I could sit here and it was mainly about Peter. She was like, who's that guy? And I'm like, I can't even. We would have to walk out of the movie for me to explain who that is and then walk back in.
Yeah, and even then it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, it's like it's a dumb throwaway joke.
Yeah. And then Wesley Snipes walks in, and I'm telling you, man, I did not expect Wesley Snipes to be in this movie.
Mm-mm.
Just because it was like in the media that they hated each other back when Blade 3 came out, or that he hated Ryan Reynolds, which I get it. Ryan Reynolds is annoying.
Yeah, but he was also being like crazy in that.
And yeah, Wesley Snipes is Wesley Snipes. Diva, especially then. That was like the height of his career.
They had to CGI his eyes opening in one scene because he refused to open them.
Yeah, and so I just didn't expect him to be in it. And they had talked about a Blade being in this movie, sort of
The one and only.
Sticky Fingers Blade.
Yeah.
The bald Blade was in the background, and we'll talk about that in a second because I thought that was random.
Yeah, I didn't think that way.
I don't really know how I feel about it, but I just didn't expect him to be in it, and it was great, man. It was great to see him. I love those Blade movies. They have a special place in my heart. I even like Blade 3. I know a lot of people don't.
It's been a long time since I've seen that one, but Blade 1 and Blade 2 are good movies.
So
First one better, I think.
So good.
Plus, a lot of people like the sequel.
Yeah,
I don't like it as much.
I like it just fine, but the first one is without just such a good movie, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier: Infinity War, Winter Soldier. Good movie without being a superhero.
Yeah, the second one was Guillermo del Toro, and every time he touches something, it becomes something completely different. You know, he goes out. It's like Hellboy 2. It's like, hey, the first one was really good, man. You didn't have to do all this.
What are you doing? yeah, I agree. Those Hellboy movies, man, the sidebar, but they just
nosedive quickly.
They just can't figure it out for some reason.
Number one, great. Have you seen the trailer for? I know this is a sidebar, but have you seen the trailer for the new whatever?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, I refrain from talking about it because there's so many people say mean things on the internet, and I love the character Hellboy, and I saw it. I'm just like, I thought it was fan made originally, and
yeah, me too.
I just didn't. And people were just dunking on it. And I didn't want to add to that because I was like,
yeah, I mean,
maybe it'll be okay. I don't know.
Maybe yeah, I'm the same way. Maybe it won't be bad, but it looks pretty.
I'm sure I thought Ron Perlman looked silly.
I always thought it fit him. I thought that what's his freaking Stranger Things looked pretty silly.
Yeah, I was so let down by that movie.
Yeah, the hair.
That's probably that's probably up there with X-Men Origins for me.
He looked like a real ass monster in that movie. That's what bothered me. He didn't look like. Anyway,
he didn't look like Hellboy. They didn't try to like humanize the monster, and that's kind of the point of Hellboy.
I guess. Yes, I mean
not humanized, but like with the clothes, like they.
I thought that Ron Perlman looked. Now we're reviewing a different movie now, but yeah. I think that Ron Perlman looked more like the comic accurate Hellboy than what's his name, White McJohnson.
White McJohnson. There were a lot of other cameos in The Void that were like the characters from the respective movies, but not the actors, which I get it.
Yeah. Like
Vinnie Jones,
Juggernaut.
Which I get it. It was kind of uncanny valley in a sense that you're supposed to expect that you're supposed to understand that it's these characters from these movies, but it's not those characters, which is fine.
Well,
people get recast all the time.
Yeah, it's an actual big dude, unlike Vinnie Jones.
Yeah, not the meat suit that.
Yeah. Like I always hate when they do those meat suits and they put hair on them because the hair never looks right.
Yeah. Another cameo that got me, and it's only because I forgot the rumors, was Chris Evans. Yeah. He showed up and very much just, I don't know, I was just distracted by all the pretty lights. Very much in the way he was acting when he first dropped down, I was like, oh, wow, Captain America's in this movie. That's cool. And they were like addressing him as Cap, like hyping it up, and I should have realized it. But that got me, man. That got me. When they were like, he's going to say the thing. And that's always been a thing in the MCU movies where they tease him saying Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
And so I thought that that's what they were doing. And then he said flame on. I was like, oh, that's fucking perfect.
Yeah, that was very good.
But then it was almost cartoony, like Looney Tunes.
Yeah, when hits.
Pyro takes his fire and then he lands like gong, gong,
that
gong.
was very Looney Tunes, yes.
Too much, man.
Yeah, because...
And he's not dead.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought he was going to be dead. And then when they're like driving and traveling along and he's in there too, I'm like, what? No way.
He broke his neck. Yeah. He shattered his pelvis, cracked his ribs, and broke his neck. He's dead, man.
I guess not.
Pyro. Good to see him back, man.
I guess.
Underdog of the Fox X-Men movie. Yeah, they gave that guy a lot of lines.
Yeah, but I did like that he gets knocked out before he can. It's like not everybody gets a speech.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Were there any cameos that I'm forgetting about, or any that you thought that would be in here? Or?
I mean, like you said, like to what I love about the Void area, and they did this in Loki too, is like the shit in the background. There was something I remember seeing when they initially fall that I thought was funny. I can't remember what it is now, but like the Fantastic car that's just like an oval was great.
Yeah. Comic accurate.
Yeah. Just little things like that were funny. But yeah, like Toad wasn't, I don't think that was Ray Park. Might have been. All those, it's just like, and so that is very much Fox. And that's why we were talking about earlier, like with Cassandra Nova and like this villain and like her henchmen, it's like, there's always a couple of mutants and then just people with guns, like in X3.
Yeah.
And that's what it's just like, who are all these people with guns, man? It's like you got mutants and then there's just these people. Who gives a shit about that?
Sabretooth came back.
Yeah, he looked so tired. Those weird teeth.
Tired. That fight was perfect.
Yeah.
I did not need them to get into this big Wolverine versus Sabretooth fight.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was funny.
It was fucking perfect.
It was Patriot, or no, it was Hydra Cap Shield was in the foreground at one point, or that costume, and there was something else that was in the foreground, like right when they landed in the desert. I thought those were kind of neat nods.
Yeah. What'd you think about Nice Pool and Dog Pool? That dog was so gross looking. I hate those.
Yeah, that scene. Nicole thinks that, like, and I do too. I'm not into it, but like people that just like dogs like licking their fucking mouths. And while he was doing that
man, makes my stomach
turn.
That
was pretty rough. Nice Pool was also a little rough for me. It was just stupid. It was so dumb.
The payoff with his character was absolutely great though. Where he's like, all right, he holds him up and he gets shot a bunch of times. And he's like, how long does it take you to regenerate? And he was like, regenerate?
Yeah.
It just like starts coughing up blood. I was like, that's freaking perfect, because I wouldn't have thought about that either. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he still uses them. He's like, you're gonna live, and his head gets blown off. And then when Wolverine walks over, he's like hammering at his chest. I don't think he's gonna make it. That was stupid, man, but I was laughing so hard. Oh god damn. And Lady Pool was another like trailer moment, because she didn't really do anything. That was his wife, Blake Lively.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was fine.
And then his kids were all in it. His daughter was Kid Pool.
Oh, I see.
His youngest was the baby, and then his oldest was like a random mutant in the movie.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's cool to have all your kids in there.
Yeah, good for them. You get shot.
Tax write-off. Who else? Matthew McConaughey was the cowboy.
I thought so. I couldn't tell at first, but then I heard it later. I was like, oh yeah, definitely.
I think it's so funny that he will have these big name actors in this movie,
like
and
Pitt.
they will be either not seen or fucking a throwaway character.
Yeah.
So random. They talk about budget, and that was one of my favorite jokes when they killed Johnny Storm. Wolverine was like, what did you do? You got him killed. And he was like, he was eating up the budget, man. It's like fucking having Chris Evans here. We got to get rid of him. Oh my gosh.
Eating up the budget.
So good. Who else? Oh, Nathan Fillion was Headpool.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I was wondering who did that.
So that was a random character that's that whole scene was rough.
It was a little gratuitous, but what I did, well, it was a little rough in the special effects area, I think.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But what I did like about this movie is that they didn't shy away from like comic book things. So yeah, Headpool is ridiculous, but he looked like a board game mascot.
Yeah.
But it's fine, you know, like whatever.
Agreed.
Like you say, Uncanny Valley.
Agreed.
Like, how do you make that look real anyway? So you might as well not.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Then they had the cowl. Finally, the big cowl reveal at the end of the movie, and I gotta say, man, my first thought was, why haven't they done this?
Yeah, it worked fine.
It
I
worked
kind of
fine.
wish it was more out. Like we called them
Yeah.
BJ handles or whatever. That shit was funny. But yeah. So for me, and just to go on kind of in a different course, not really, but for me, these movies have always been ruined by the fans. The heavy Deadpool fans that are like, oh, he's so like they're like the meme of the rapper from Always Sunny, like laughing with popcorn in his mouth, like that shit.
Yeah.
That is my impression, and that's what we were surrounded by in the theater last night. And I'm like, yeah, that was funny. It wasn't that funny though. People like rolling on the fucking floor. And so
there was a dude in my theater that continued to there was like random moments in the movie where he tried to get like a clap going.
Oh my god.
Like when Wesley Snipes walked in, he started clapping and everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing?
People that clap at movies, and I know this is a bit done by several comedians, but people that clap in movies or people that clap when a plane lands deserve a special kind of hell. It's just stupid.
God. And the person next to me, every time there was like a noteworthy moment, he puts on the cowl, or they bust through the bus at the end, and it's like this person was like had their phone out taking pictures, and I was like, people really do that? I've never in my life seen someone bust their phone out and start taking pictures.
Let's talk about that moment. That moment for 1 second.
What's the appeal?
Spoilers.
Hey man, look at this movie. Look at this picture I took in the movie. Be like, you're fucking loser.
Turn off that flash, you fucking idiot. No.
God damn, you loser.
But let's
talk about
that moment where they bust through the window. That took me out of the movie hardcore.
Looked like a video game.
Well, not even the freeze frame, none of that. It was the posing and the weird ass, like when they land. The animation of the CGI was fine. The animation of the CGI was not great. It was a little jerky.
Yeah. It was. Especially right there.
Yeah, everything looked odd right there. It was a weird moment, like the Wolverine having his claw. I understand that is a moment to me where like the real life anatomy of a person and what they do in comic books, like that is, you got to kind of change it a little so it makes sense.
Yeah. I did like the way he moved, man. Like when he first fought. Let's talk about the fights. That was a fine. Like them fighting all the Deadpools was fine. It wasn't my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
But that first all the Deadpool Wolverine fights were great.
Yeah.
I loved the way he like moved around, how he like ran on all fours and just like jumped. I thought that was great. There, even though it was a hardcore sell for the Honda Odyssey or whatever, that fight scene was great.
I don't know if that is a sell. They talk about how shitty it is all the time.
I know, but you know, like they were, Sorry. But they kept saying like it was like it's a very weird random episode of The Office where Jim's working in Philadelphia and they have the baseball player come in to like they're going to try to sign him, and he's giving him this script, and every time it's like everyone's aware that they're on the show and the show's really popular now, so he says eat fresh a lot.
Oh yeah,
he keeps saying it randomly, and he's like, and then eat fresh, and he basically has like a deal with Subway to plug it as much as possible. That's what it felt like. They kept saying
just saying it as many times as possible.
Honda Odyssey. And then at the end of the fight, he was like, the Honda Odyssey actually kind of fucks. It's like, okay, Honda really put some money into this. All their fight scenes were great. The end fight scene with the Resistance and the cannon fodder soldiers was great.
I didn't love it.
Good for Channing Tatum, man.
There were some cool moments, but it was a little too shaky. Like they were trying to make it look speedy.
Yeah, very shaky.
And then
I think I just liked seeing. I will always like seeing Gambit. Like
yeah, he did. He had the
Gambit.
coolest parts, I think.
Yeah, Daphne Keene,
She
X-23,
wasn't in it that much.
totally underutilized. Yeah, totally underutilized. She was probably out of the Resistance, the character I was most excited to see. Didn't really use her much.
No, man, she was filming The Acolyte. She had to come back and take off all the makeup for that.
Didn't use her much. It was fine. But yeah, I think all the rest of the fight scenes were just okay.
Yeah. The side view, like, old boy fight scene with all the Deadpools was pretty good. But it was everything in that universe was brighter than it's ever looked in any of his other movies. So all that was really, it just seemed off.
It was so cool to see some of those Deadpools. And then it just got to where they were just Deadpools.
Yeah, just like a dude and just a guy.
Because they had Deadpool 2099, which is like the futuristic one.
Oh, is that what that was?
They had Deadpool Assassin, who's like the kind of the monk looking one. Ronin. There were a lot of cool ones, but then again, after that initial first wave, it was just dudes in Deadpool.
Like Mexican Deadpool.
And then I don't know how I feel about the whole Peter thing. It was fine. Kind of a throwaway character. It's whatever. It's fine. He's the one that saves the day.
It was kind of. I mean, he is funny in that. The movie's pretty great though, because like he talks about getting his. He had a friend that pierced his nipples, and then had to go, and then they see him later, and he's got one. That was pretty good.
Yeah, he's telling him to pull it or whatever. And I got a chuckle out of when he said he's trying to talk Wade Wilson into like coming out of retirement. He's like, "We're Deadpool, man."
Yeah.
He's like, what the fuck does that mean? We're not Deadpool. There's another random reference that I really liked. Oh, when he's early in the movie where Ryan Reynolds is explaining to Happy Hogan his team experience. He talks about X-Force, and he just talks about, because I was wondering if Cable was going to show up in the movie. I thought that would have been a good bridge between like him being Thanos in the MCU and him being Cable in the Fox universe.
Mhm.
I thought he was going to be in it, but they kind of just like, oh yeah, they all died.
Well, he's like he didn't do well with test audience or something. It was
yeah. Yeah, even though Shatterstar was in it a lot more than I thought he would be.
Yeah, random.
Which isn't a lot, but he was in it more than I thought he was going to be.
More than none at all.
Exactly. I would rather see Terry Crews in there twice, man.
Like,
what'd you think about the first villain, Tom from Succession?
that's good. Yeah, he was funny.
He was great. Yeah,
Very animated.
I like that guy. Yeah, great villain. Totally fine. And then they switched it up and threw in Cassandra Nova mid-movie. What'd you think about Cassandra Nova?
You know?
She's rocking that bald head.
Yeah, it was fine. I just didn't. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it. It was fine. It's like Coneheads.
It was fine. It almost just felt like very one note, very I'm bad because I'm bad.
Yeah, I'm bad because
which
I was born weird.
Which I guess in this movie you can't do too much, exposition with the villain like that. But anytime she did that finger fucking the head thing, man, it creeps me out. Dude.
Well, yeah, not only that, but it also like I know that I'm getting into something stupid by saying this, but sometimes she would have the way she'd have her fingers in there. I'm like, that's not anatomically correct. Like that, yeah. Her thumb and pinky can't be out like that.
Yeah. Especially when she was dragging Tom's head.
Yeah.
Or whatever, Paradox's head. Her hand was like completely stretched.
Yeah, that
one was fucking rough.
Yeah, that's the moment I'm talking about. And I know it's stupid, but it bothered me. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, she was fine.
It's fine.
It definitely felt like a throwaway. But again, a lot of the Fox X-Men villains feel like that to me.
Oh, she played Diana in The Crown. Lady Di.
Oh, I know she looked familiar.
Interesting.
I know she looks familiar. It was fun. It was a fun movie. It was silly. It was 100% fan service. There was nothing of like substance really in the movie.
Yeah.
because then he goes back to normal, you know, but normal plus two Wolverines essentially.
It does just kind of end.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, what I like and what we talked about earlier is it didn't lead to this idea of all these extra movies and oh, Deadpool will return. They didn't do any of that. It's fine.
They didn't do any of it. Yeah, and I think it's smart because I'm not saying Ron Reynolds is old. Wolverine or Hugh Jackman is. They're older guys, right?
Yeah, he's like 43 or
The
something.
next big movie, could be 10 years from now. Who knows if they're going to want to do all this shit in 10 years? You know. So instead of like promising some nonsense, they're just like, "Hey, whatever happened to Deadpool and Wolverine? Oh, they're still in that universe that they ended up in. They're fine. If we ever want to pick them out of that to use them for something, they can.
Yeah, just use them for cameos.
They're not shoved into the main 616 where they have to figure out how to interact with all these characters, which Deadpool seems sort of omnipresent of all the multiverse because he knows about all the Avengers and everything on the sacred timeline. That's one thing that I did you mentioned it earlier that I didn't understand is how he knew about everything going on in multiple universes, even though that was just a time machine that he was using.
Yeah, it's just like he's breaks that fourth wall, man.
Yeah, I guess that's.
I think it. And how do you make him interact with people in these movies that aren't rated R? I think there are funny ways you could do that, where he has like a black bar that goes across his mouth, or it bleeps and he comments on the bleep. Like that's kind of funny. It could be funny.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm interested to see how they're going to do Secret Wars or whatever they plan to do. I know they're going to try to do one more big multiverse thing.
So I'm curious what you think about this, or if you really saw it at all, noticed it. But I noticed a lot of ADR changes in the movie. Like even the way his jaw would be moving in the mask, and he'd be saying something else.
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't match up.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, what changed in there, if that's like studio interference or if they just changed the script up a little bit. But I noticed that several times, not just with him. And I'm kind of curious if there's like an extended version of the movie that's a little different that didn't, wasn't changed by Disney at all.
A Snyder's cut.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. That'd be cool. That's one I would actually watch with extra scenes. I don't know. Yeah, I did notice that a few times.
That always throws me off.
Yeah. It does. I don't know. It was fine. I'm glad it didn't lead into the next big thing. I know that's a big complaint for a lot of people. I think they're just so. This is going to save the MCU.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did love that commentary on that. And that was probably added in later. He's like, I'm Marvel Jesus. Like, I'm bringing it back.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was so great, man. And just the commentary on like being self-aware, like, oh yeah, we're going to do a bunch of cameos. We're going to have a bunch of variants. It's just like telling you straight up, this movie is just going to be like brain slop for your entertainment.
Yeah. And I think, it's totally self-aware, which I mean, there's like a self-awareness there that can be funny and sometimes it's like stupid, but it definitely rode the line. But I thought that those moments were good. And it's so funny because so many fans, it's like late stage capitalism in and of itself. We're now at a cycle where fans want more, but the studio makes something and then it's not good. And then they're like, well, why didn't it do this, this, and this? It's like, okay, we'll make it do this. The movie is just this, this, and this. And there might be a tiny little bit of original story in there. That's what all the movies became. Is just, it's leading into whatever else. And then here's this little bit of an individual story.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think it was so heavy-handed on like cameos and like making fun of the fans and making fun of the people that talk about the woke mob and like all of that stuff, making fun of all those people. I think this could be a good reset for like their movies.
Mm-hmm.
They can finally start going into like, I don't know, because I think all the movies have been fine. So.
Yeah, I mean they're just fine. Everything's just been just fine.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is
I
like
think
the fan demand versus what can, I mean, you can't produce what everyone will love. And you also can't hold up a storyline. King, for example, you can't hold up a storyline for all this shit when this, the actor has to be replaced or something. Or like you took out your coolest version of Kang in one of the movies.
Yeah, that's so stupid. There had to be a different way to do that, man. Yeah, I don't know. It was great though.
It was fine.
And it was great in terms of like that. I liked the commentary on like the fans. That was probably my favorite.
Same. And I think that, excuse me, not every movie has to be, shit's been going on lately. Fine. I'll go see a brain slot movie. That's all I can handle right now.
Yeah. I feel like if it would have been, I would not have enjoyed it if it would have been like Deadpool and Wolverine will return and Captain America, New World Order. I'm just like, no thanks.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see them and team up with Tobey Maguire, and I'm really surprised they didn't do any. Well, I guess it would have been that's like Sony stuff. I was really surprised they didn't do any Venom or anything.
Yeah, I kind of expected that to show up.
Something. It wasn't I was underwhelmed, but I don't know. I wasn't expecting more, but I guess with the budget, they had a lot of big name actors in there. They couldn't put so many.
I knew it as soon.
I did like
when I saw Ryan Reynolds. I knew
like
it was fucking Human Torch. I was like, nah, definitely Human Torch.
Yeah. So funny, man. Caught me off guard. Like I had heard the rumors of him being in it. It just caught me off guard, man. And I did like the send off too, even though I'm not a huge fan of the X-Men franchise, Fox. I did like that little send off of the behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
They looked like they had a lot of fun making those.
There were some that I didn't know why they put it in there though, other than that they're Fox movies. Because I was like, you didn't bring any of the characters or anything like that. Like it's just.
Which ones? Oh, like X-Men First Class.
I think so. Yeah.
Like yeah, there was Jennifer Lawrence, McAvoy, Fassbender. They were all in there. I do like how they explained. They were like Magneto whenever they were talking about the Resistance. They're like, no,
he's dead. No, they boiled that helmet down immediately.
I enjoyed it. It was fun. Yeah, but I've seen people talk about going back to the movies today, or that are going back to the movies today, going back tomorrow. It's not.
No, it is not a second viewing in the theater for me.
I want to do it like I did the other Deadpool movies. I'm going to watch it 3 years from now
Mm-hmm.
and say, "Oh, that was pretty
good.
That
wasn't bad. I remember this. I remember having a good time watching it."
Yeah. Other than that,
it's worth a watch, and anyone who hadn't been spoiled already that's here, it's definitely. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like earlier, I don't feel like any moment in the movie, storyline wise, was like, "Oh God, I'm glad they didn't ruin that twist." It was more like, "Man, I'm glad somebody didn't tell me that fucking Electro was going to be in it," which would have been fine. I wouldn't have even cared if someone spoiled.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The Blade thing. Really, it was like, "Oh, it's Blade." Yeah. I didn't think he was going to be in this, and that was it.
That
there was no like story beats where I was like, "Oh man, I'm so glad that the twist was spoiled."
The Blade, some motherfucker's still trying to ice skate uphill. I was like, "Yeah, all right."
No, that one I was like, "I roll."
Yeah, didn't need that.
When he used that thing though, that boomerang.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool.
Well, even when he used that stake gun and shot that guy against that was good too. Yeah, nuts.
Yeah.
Oh man. But anyway, yeah, worth it.
There's some great stuff in there, man.
Pyro is.
I think it's worth it.
Oh, well, I was gonna say Pyro. It's funny because it's like they got that actor. He must not have been doing anything because it was like, yeah, we'll get this guy. Sure.
Yeah, or he's done like really good on Broadway, so his acting chops have like improved, and they're like, yeah, he's gonna be cheap.
Yeah,
we'll bring him back. We'll give him more lines than anyone.
Yeah, he luckily
then Nightcrawler's dead. He's not allowed to talk.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm curious if they pulled like a Back to the Future too with that character because it looked just like the guy that was in first class.
It really
But I'm like, maybe it's just makeup.
It really did. It really did. What I am surprised is that mentioned it briefly earlier, that this is Deadpool's MCU movie, and the real only connection was Eliath. And I thought it was funny where he said Eliath from Loki season 2 episode 5. I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to lean over to my wife to say, "Oh, that's from
it's from Loki."
Yeah, that's from Loki season 2. But there was like no other MCU references, or like, which is fine.
I thought he was in season 1.
I was surprised.
Wasn't Eliath in season 1 too?
Yeah, he was in season 1. I don't.
Yeah, I don't
think
this movie's just kind of, or that show.
I don't think I finished season 2, so it's all blurred to me.
Season 2 is good.
But yeah. No, yeah, I'm surprised Tom Hiddleston didn't show up in it. There are actors that I think would get a kick out of doing a cameo that I thought would be in it at some point, but they weren't. The Thor thing was funny. That they wouldn't let that go.
Yeah.
He's like, "Why is Thor crying?" I thought that was great.
Yeah, and the fact that he never shows up is even better.
He never shows up. They never reference it again. I thought it was great. That's it, folks. We watched it. I was interested to see what Simon thought about it. I would love to see it with him, to watch him scoff.
Yeah, just hear me go.
You guys have to hit us up in the comments and let us know what you thought. I've seen people talk about this as the next, big MCU movie. It's like, it doesn't even feel like an MCU movie. It just feels like a Deadpool movie.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely didn't feel like MCU. But,
one question before we wrap this up. Someone posted this online, and I want to know what you think, what your ranking is. Someone said, rank these multiverse movies. You have Deadpool Wolverine, The Flash, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Multiverse of Madness. That's how we'll end this episode. What is your rank of those 4 movies?
Probably Spider-Man, Deadpool, Wolverine. What were the other 2?
The Flash and Multiverse of Madness.
The Flash and Multiverse of Madness. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty much. Mine was Deadpool Wolverine, then No Way Home. Only because No Way Home is an actual MCU movie.
Yeah.
And these two felt very similar. Like, if you scrap all of the rated R parts from Deadpool and all the Ryan Reynolds-ness from it, it's like the same movie. So, and I was like, I feel weird being so disappointed in that movie because so many people loved it so much. And it's not that I didn't. I loved the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire part. I loved that stuff. But that doesn't necessarily mean the movie.
It wasn't even about them for me. For me, it's the Green Goblin parts. Like, when he changes his acting and all that shit, like the Willem Dafoe, I feel like really, really did, like, that's the part I like about that movie. They allowed him to come back and be like crazy as fuck, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. He makes everything better.
Yeah.
And then I have The Flash 3 and Multiverse of Madness, which I know a lot of people, The Flash has, me saying The Flash is better than Multiverse of Madness has nothing to do with Ezra Miller being an absolutely terrible person. It's more so seeing Michael Keaton's Batman again and watching him do some crazy stuff. Not saying the movie's good, but that is also a testament of how bad I think
Multiverse of Madness is really, it's a rough watch, for sure.
Yeah, I did not enjoy that movie at all. I was kind of like,
well, it did. Again, I know we could sit there and talk about it, but the fact that they were writing at the same time that they were writing WandaVision basically didn't happen. It didn't inform the plot of Multiverse of Madness at all. So she was a shitty villain. They should have just picked a different villain. It should have been. They could have done the same shit with an evil Doctor Strange. That could have been the same movie.
Yeah, they could have did Agatha.
Could have.
They were gonna make her own show anyways.
Yeah.
Catherine Hahn can carry, man. She's a great actress. I think she's great.
Did you notice the Scarlet Witch bus or like relief in the Resistance area? There was a Scarlet Witch, like above like the water that was in that area. There was like a Scarlet Witch relief carving in the ceiling. I'm not really sure what that was about, but
I'll have to watch it again.
yeah, go back to the theater.
Just for that. All right, guys, we're circling the drain. We watched Deadpool and Wolverine, so you don't have to.